Everyone's on, right? Okay, shall we begin then? Let us all bring our palms together to make our veneration to the Perfect One, the infinitely compassionate One, the undefeated One, He who is the fount of wisdom and the epitome of compassion, reminding ourselves that this is not a mere mark of our respect, obeisance or veneration, but also a pledge of our allegiance to the truth, the path to get us there, as well as our own practice to achieve the ultimate realization and freedom that lay at the end of that path. Let us take this moment to commit ourselves steadfastly to the noble path laid down to us by the Buddha. So with that in mind, I invite you all to chant the Namaskara with me, upon which we will take a moment to observe the precepts and seek refuge in the Noble Triple Gem. We will then invite the countless sentient beings to be amongst us and witness this meritorious deed as it unfolds, as well as rejoice in those merits, and then to receive the teaching of the Great Master, such that they, just as us, may achieve the ultimate bliss of Nibbāna. So with that in mind, let us make a start to today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So at the beginning of these talks, or this journey that you have all embarked on, you might have thought, and reasonably so, that you should go along to a sermon, sit quietly in the sermon, listen to the sermon, let the Swamin Wahanse share with us the Dhamma. We should try and understand it. And then everything else will fall into place. And as I say, rightly so, so I'll give you the benefit of that doubt. At the beginning, and if it is still your beginning of this journey, that is true. At the beginning, we come here with a blank canvas. Hopefully you come with a blank canvas, because if you come here with a canvas that has a picture on it already, then half the time I have to sometimes erase what's already on there and then make sometimes minor amendments and adjustments. Sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board and start afresh. But the thing is, I don't know what you come here with. Your canvas is yours. I don't get to see your canvas. Not that you have to come and show it to me. So we all come with a canvas. But if you come with a blank canvas, it's always easier for a teacher to do what he or she has to do, right? There are teachers in the audience, so you know when you have to teach someone something, if they show up pre-informed, pre-educated, sometimes the first thing you have to do is uneducate them, which is tough, especially if they are adamant, stubborn, or they think that they know and they think what they know is right, and it's very difficult to erase and start afresh. But if people come with a blank canvas, especially when it comes to religion or spirituality, something as sacred as Nibbāna or the Buddhist teaching. These are things that people hold very close to their hearts because it becomes part of their identity. And people are sometimes offended when you tell them that what you know is wrong. That is not what the Buddha taught. Perhaps it's time that you change your opinion. Because, people like to think that they're very religious. Sometimes they confess that they're not. But if they think they are, then the philosophy or the religion or the way that they believe the religion or their own religion is a very intimate part of their identity. And then it's more difficult to remove what they know about religion than it is to remove, say, for example, their jawbone. That will come out easier. You can take a rib out of their rib cage, that will come out easier than what they come having pre-learned, having pre-educated themselves about, especially things like religion. Because it is what makes them feel that they are religious, that they are pious, that they are closer to spirituality. And usually, I'll put myself in the same boat as I have shared these stories with you from my past. Religion and religious understanding, religious knowledge, especially anything to do with religion, your virtues, your sila, your samadhi, your practice, your meditation and the number of hours you've done and all the rest of that, right? It becomes something of a weapon that we use to lift and raise and elevate ourselves from the rest of society. The one thing that the Buddha gave to become selfless, we use to boost and bloat ourselves up with. It's very typical among human beings. You're all human beings, right? Well then. So this is typical of the mind, not necessarily your fault. This is not your fault, this is just the mind. It's how minds work. I'm sure there are many things that go on in your mind that you have no idea why it does that. And that is why you're here. You're here to learn about how your mind works. There's a lot that you know about how your body works, and even if you didn't, all you had to do is to go to a doctor. There are plenty of them out there, good doctors, or if you did a 5-year medical degree, then you can learn a fair bit about how your body works. You can do a quick Google search or ask your best AI friend, and they will tell you how your body works. Right? If you need to know, for instance, how long it takes for your food to digest and to what parts of your body certain nutrients will end up, 5 minutes is all it would take you to acquire this information. And this, no sooner than you do it, now you're aware, now you're knowledgeable, now you're educated, and chances are you're right. But the thing is, because that knowledge is very common and it's there everywhere, it is not typically something that you can use to boost yourself up or to bloat yourselves up or to say that you're better than the rest of them. But religion is usually one of these things that we use for that purpose. And if you're not careful, we fall into that trap. Actually, most people are already in that trap, and we try to help people come out of it. So you see, there are 3 kinds of people. There are those who are not religious at all, self-confessed. Right? I'm not religious, Swaminathan, and don't even try to make me. Right? Some people are like that. They are hard-headed about not being religious, and they are hell-bent on making sure that there is nothing in this world that can make them religious. They are non-believers, they are atheists, they don't even know what being an atheist is, but they claim to be a non-religious atheist individual. I'm not saying everyone, most of them. You're the exception, okay? So then they say that I'm non-religious, I don't believe in Jesus Christ, I don't believe in the Buddha. They were just blokes like I was, or I am, and it's just we're all the same and there's nothing special. So we just get by and do the best we can. And don't even try to come and talk to me otherwise. So there are those individuals. So they're non-religious. And they will take that to their grave, the fact that they are non-religious. So even if they come to a talk, sometimes you will find individuals like that. They'll still come to the talk to see if they can convince the Swamin Wahanse to become non-religious. They'll go to church to try and convince the father, the priest, to become non-religious, to give up his cloak, to give up his robe. Heck, if they met Jesus Christ, they would say, come out, come down from the cross and become non-religious. That's what they would say. If they met the Buddha, they'd say, Buddha, disrobe, right? There's no point in being religious. So very stubborn about being non-religious. That's how some people are. That's okay. So I was not in that boat. I was in a different one. Then there are those who are not religious, but they don't mind being religious. It's just that it has to be something that agrees with their view of the world. It has to be something that agrees with their current understanding of how the world works. They have to be able to be at peace with it. So they have a certain lifestyle that they live. And that religion, whatever it is, must agree with that lifestyle. If it goes against that lifestyle, so for example, if they have to party every Sunday, then the religion must allow for that. If it doesn't, they will not buy that religion. So they don't mind being religious. It's just that their religion has to agree with their lifestyle. In other words, they're looking for something that would help them feel comfortable and still call themselves religious. Because society gives value, a certain value to those who society sees as religious individuals, because they're deemed to be good. Aren't they? Typically, if you see a man who's religious and a man who's non-religious, what does instinct tell you? Whether that's right or wrong is another matter. What does your intuition tell you? Who's the better man? The better man. The religious man, right? Because you believe that religion must have done something to this individual. They must have seen a higher truth, something bigger, better than them. They must have, they must know something good. Maybe at least they're virtuous. Perhaps, they have some morals, and therefore they must be good. Well, if only everyone practiced what they preached, that would be the case. But it is not always so. But this second crowd of people, the second category, they're not completely and totally against religion. They will accept religion for as long as it agrees with their lifestyle. It agrees with their worldview. It agrees with their plans, their hopes, their dreams, their ambitions, and what they want to do. So, for example, I'll give you another example. If they wish to remain married, then they will look for a religion that allows for that. If they wish to have, let's say, homosexual relationships, then they will look for a religion that allows for that. If they don't wish to be charitable, right? If they believe that hoarding, collecting, gathering for myself is their philosophy, then they will look for a religion that doesn't talk much about charity or giving away, sharing. So that at the end of the day, if you ask them, are you religious? Oh, yes. No one's more religious than me. So that's the second category of people. Then there's a third category. The third category of people, they are open to religion. Thank you for the reminder. So if any one of you has a phone on you, could you perhaps do what needs to be done? Thank you very kindly. The third category of people, they are religious and sometimes they may not understand what religion actually is, but they don't mind being religious and they like to lift themselves and to see a higher truth. They feel that something's not right. They know that something's wrong with the world, their world. They know that it is they who have to change, and they're looking for a way to do that. Excuse me. And so on their quest for a higher truth, a philosophy for life, they come across a teaching. And that teaching could be found, perhaps they might find it in the church, perhaps they might find it at the mosque, maybe they might find it at the temple. You never know where they might find it. Maybe they'll find it in a book, a sermon, a talk, a discourse, a lecture, an encounter. And then, because they're open-minded, they will listen to it, they will take it, and for as long as it helps them to achieve what they want with their lives, then they will practice. So there are these kinds of individuals when it comes to religion. Now, I believe the majority of you, I don't know, you would have been in any one of these categories, but maybe not the first. You would not have remained if you'd been in the first. You would have come here and you tried to convince Swaminathan to become unreligious, and perhaps I'm still here. So then you would have given up your attempt and you would have gone. So you cannot be the first category. The second category, maybe you will show up for 1 or 2 sermons. After that, you can't tolerate Swaminathan, say. Because you know how he's like. When he's good, when he's bad, he's even better, right? He's very stern when it comes to certain things. You have to really be able to see the love behind the words. Otherwise, you cannot survive in this place. He will say all these things, harsh, critique, and then later on he'll take his alms bowls and the audacity with which he'll come to you for food. Right? After all that mocking and harsh, stern admonition, and right, the audacity he has to bring his alms bowl to you and say, please can I have some food? Right? So the fact that you have survived for more than a month or so is evidence that you are probably not the second category, because those people will not survive for very long, because it doesn't agree with their lifestyle. When Swaminathan says the true test of whether you have taken the Dhamma is not how much Dhamma you have understood. Don't even come and tell me how much Dhamma you have understood. Don't even come and talk to me the discourse or give me the doctrine and tell me, Swaminathan, I've understood the doctrine. Can I share it with you? I say, no. I don't want to know whether you have understood the doctrine. I will ask your wife whether you have understood the doctrine. I will ask your husband. I will ask your children. I will ask your colleagues. I will ask your friends. I will ask your brother, your sister who you haven't spoken to in the last 3 years. Whether you have tried to start to make amends with them. If you have, then that is what will convince me that you have understood the doctrine. A change in behavior, a change in your mindset, a change in your character. These are the more important things than mere understanding of the word of the Dhamma. It's the spirit of the Dhamma that must make a transformation in you. That's why I'm sure your evidence that the fact that you have been coming here for so many months, for now going 2 years almost, right? The fact that you have been coming along, I know there's a lady amongst you who will come every week and this sermon, the 128th sermon, this is the 129th sermon, Swaminathan. Very excited. And why not? The fact that sometimes they've only missed 1 or 2 sermons. Sometimes it's like, taking a tooth out of them. They feel really, really bad that they have missed 1 or 2 sermons, but they keep count of the sermons just to make sure that there's traction and, there's energy to keep this going, because they understand the benefit that it brings to everyone. Anyway, which sermon is this one? Does anyone know? 30th. 130. Okay. So that we have been here for that many weeks. God, I'm old now. So most people cannot survive this because it really challenges your ways of thinking. And I often say, don't bring me your problems and say, Swaminathan, these problems are all because of him, all because of her, all because of them. Please, can you tell me what I can go and tell them to change about themselves? You know that I don't entertain those things, those questions. Yeah? Because all change must happen where? Within you, of course. You change and then the world will change for you. The other day I was speaking to our Swamin Mahanses and Anagarikas and Anagarik Mahatas, and I was telling them, I gave them a bit of advice. I said, if ever someone accuses you, rightly or wrongly, right? Rightly, usually you can bear that. But wrongly, if someone ever accuses you, don't feel compelled to convince the individual who's accusing you that you are innocent. If they ask you, why did you do that? Feel free to say, I didn't. But then if they continue to say, no, you did, then you're simply, all you have to say is, okay. Okay. And then if they continue to give you advice and admonish you for what you've done, apparently what you've done, and they tell you off, and they shout at you, scream at you, speak harsh words at you, you must be able to just listen to all that and use that as medicine that you will use for later. So, have this cupboard with you. In your mind, have this cupboard. And label it advice for later. Okay? Advice for later. See, there are two kinds of advice you can get in life. One, before you make the mistake. The other, after you make the mistake. The advice you get after you make the mistake is the more expensive one. Because to get that advice, you have to make a mistake first. And once the mistake is done, that's a loss to you, isn't it? Assume it's a sin of some sort, not a heinous sin, just to think of a small something simple, something small, a small sin, a sin nonetheless, right? What is the price that you had paid to get that advice? See, that sin leaves a mark in your karmic strand, doesn't it? And that sin will come back to you as vipaka at some point. So who's going to suffer for that? You're going to have to suffer for that. Now, don't you see that the advice you get after you have committed a sin is quite an expensive one? Because to get that advice, you have to commit the sin. You have to do what is wrong first. Yeah? But what if someone was prepared to give you a bit of advice before you do the wrongdoing, before you commit the sin? Now, what is the price you have to pay for that? It's free. Whenever you go to the supermarket, right, you do your shopping, right, assume at the till, at the checkout, they say, sir, madam, you've bought all these, so for all purchases above 10,000 or however much, we give you a free banana. What do you normally say? Yes, please. It's free. It's only a banana, but still, it's free. Typically, you wouldn't just turn and say, no, I don't want the banana. You will take the banana. It's a free banana. Why not? Go and give it to the monkey at home. Still, it's a free banana. It's one banana you didn't have to pay for. That when you get these coupons and things, right, some people, they enjoy it. It's kind of like a hobby for them. They collect these magazines and cut those little coupons and these vouchers and, buy one, get one, buy two, get one, buy one, leave your wife. Right? These coupons that you get, right? So you collect these coupons, some, just keep collecting those coupons, and then they go to the supermarkets that honor those coupons and so on, right? So because, everyone likes a free deal. They think it's free. It's not free, really, but keeping things simple, you like a free lunch. Why not? Hardly ever anyone gives you anything for free. So when it's offered, you don't tend to refuse it, you tend to accept it. So then, why not apply the same principles when it comes to advice? So, these are the moments where that screams out loud to me that you have taken the Dhamma. Now, this is why you have to live your life with the Dhamma, ladies and gentlemen. It's not go to a meditation center and be quiet, and that's not where I get to see how much Dhamma you have understood. It's not at the retreat. It's in the war zone. Where do you check how good a soldier is with his weapon? At the retreat? On the battleground. Yes, it's in the war zone. It's not in the bunker, it's outside. You can train yourself back at the retreat. You can train in the training grounds, but how good you are at wielding your weapon is something we can only truly assess when you're out there on the field. So if you don't actually have to tell me or show me that you have understood the Dhamma. It's evident in your behavior. It's evident in the way you live your life. And the people that live close to you, with you, the people that you take the most for granted, those people, who do you take mostly for granted? The people who live closest to you, right? The people who you trust will be okay with your flaws, with your faults, with your shortcomings, the people who you believe will tolerate you. These are the people who you live close with. So these are the people who see your ugliest side most of the time. Strangers don't get to see your ugly side. That's why I think that's why anniversaries must be celebrated. It's not a celebration of the two of you living together. It's each of you, of the pair, honoring the other individual for putting up with you. So, you see, I'm never going to suggest don't celebrate your anniversaries. Do, but do it for the right reason. So you can, celebrate your next upcoming anniversary. If you've been together for the last, say, 15 years, and that's quite an achievement. On whose part? For you, it must be on their part, on his part, on her part. And for him or her, it must be on your part. Right? So, when you do this, like a Dolaspirikara puja. Right? When you do a Dolaspirikara puja, you make an offering to your long-lost relatives. And instead of trying to chase them away, that's not the mindset you should have. It should be more of a mark of gratitude for what they have done for you. Right? And then out of that, the merits that you generate, you invite them to come and partake in. That is the invitation. So it's a bit like that, I'd say. When your next anniversary comes around, think not about, it is my day to celebrate how many years I have managed to put up with this man. It's not that. Celebrate the fact that that man managed to put up with you. For all your flaws, for all your faults, for all your weakness and your shortcomings, right? They chose to live with you and not leave you. And the same goes to the other party. For all his faults, for all his flaws, and for all his shortcomings, she decided to put up with him. Maybe it was for the children. Then on anniversary, who must you celebrate? The children. Thanks to the children, you're still together. Right? So when anniversary comes, it can be celebrated just as if it was their birthday. I take them out, have a party, and bring the children and their friends around, People ask, whose birthday? No, it's not our birthday, it's our mother's and father's wedding anniversary. So how come you get the presents? Because of us, they're still together. See, actually, this is a celebration. The Dhamma, this is a celebration. The sasana is a celebration of you trying to learn to be comfortable outside of your comfort zones. That is what the sasana is. It's teaching you to feel safe outside of your comfort zones. We feel very safe within our comfort zones. We feel very comfortable. That's why they call it the comfort zones. Your comfort zones, it's not necessarily a physical zone. It's not your home. For some people, the most uncomfortable place for them to be is within their homes. Therefore, they just look forward to the next opportunity to go out and be with friends or get back to work, right? Whereas for other people, it can be the most comfortable place. But it's wherever you get to be who you are. It's wherever you can be you. Wherever you can be you, there's another word for it. It's called Sansara, where you can be you. Nibbāna is where you cannot be you. So do you see, wherever you have a comfort zone, give me another word for it. Sansara. Because there is nowhere in this world where you can be you. It is only that you're constantly creating a sense of self. You're creating a you in your heart, in your mind, and then that you, that self, that individual, has likes, dislikes, preferences. What you do when you say that something's your comfort zone is you create that environment which is in keeping, which is in accordance, which complies, which is in harmony with that sense of self that you have created. That's when you call it your comfort zone. That's why I call it Sansara. Anywhere you like to hang out, anywhere you like to be, the people you like to live with, these are all those things that you can call your comfort zone, therefore your Sansara. They feed your Sansara. So it's not a very comfort zone after all, is it? You must settle to live in your comfort zones at your own peril. The Dhamma is here to help you walk out of your comfort zones and still remain comfortable. See, here's what an arahant is. It is not an individual. An arahant is not an individual with a comfort zone. He's an individual who has no comfort zone and he is still comfortable. Or she is still comfortable. Whereas everyone on the other side, on this side of Nibbāna, is someone who has a comfort zone somewhere or the other. It may be the people with whom you associate. It may be the kind of food that you like to eat. It may be the way you like to dress. It may be the way that you wear your hair. Now, you all have a way that you dress, don't you? I don't mean the way you dress when you go to the temple, because typically that's mostly the same. But at home, you dress a certain way. When you walk out, you dress a certain way. When you go to a party, you dress a certain way. And there's a lot of flexibility and freedom as to how people dress. Therefore, because you are availed of that flexibility and that freedom, people use the way they dress as a demonstration of their individuality. It's an expression of themselves. An expression of whom? Of whom? Them? Say that word again? Selves, indeed. It's an expression of themselves. There's a way that you wear your glasses. Perhaps there's a certain word that has to go across the frame. Maybe there's a certain kind of shoe that you have to wear, and you would never like to be seen without those shoes. If you're a stiletto kind of girl, then you have to always be in your stilettos. You would not like others to see you without them. If you like to have your hair long, then you will always only want to see people, or you will only want people to see your hair worn that way. And if you like your hair to be ironed, keep me right if I got the wrong words, right? Straightened. If you want to have your hair straightened, and I think these things you have to straighten from time to time, right? It's not done once. And don't they have like a permanent straighten? No? Okay. I don't know. I have to ask you. Right? So if you are one of those people who like to have their hair straightened or straight, then from time to time, if it becomes, what's the opposite of that? What? Curly wavy, curly or wavy. When it's unstraightened, curly or wavy, right? Then you will not want people to see you that way. So then you will, because that's part of your identity, an expression of yourself. There's a certain gait, G-A-I-T, gait, as in the way you walk. There's a certain gait that people like to see others or know that others see them do. Right? Maybe yours is a catwalk. And so if you had a limp one of those days, right, you will not walk like that. Maybe if you had if you hurt your foot, then maybe you might spend the day at home and not go to work on that day just because you don't want people to see you like that. Maybe you want to have your skin unblemished, right? You will always have other people see you with your makeup on. No dark circles, no, wrinkles, pimples. I always wonder why they call them pimples. You can't do ping and get them. That would be called paupers. You can't do ping and get pimples. Right? Then you have these freckles. Right? So these things, some people want to cover them up. And they will not have anyone see them with them. So that's all part of your comfort zone. Now you see, now I'm saying things that might make you feel uncomfortable. Because here's what I'm suggesting. It's one thing to look presentable to society, because there's a certain decorum that you have to adhere to. Right? You can't just wake up in the morning and go to work like that. It's not right. Right, to have your eye kakka and your ear kakka and your nose kakka, and to go into work like that is not right. It's just not right. Okay. It should be okay as long as you get the job done, but that's just taking it a bit extreme, a bit too far. We don't need to be like that because not everyone's willing to be okay with that. But beyond that, if there's a certain way that you have to present yourself, and you would not wish to be seen any other way, I'm here to prompt you to question yourself whether that is the price that you're paying. To remain in Sansara. Whether that's worth holding on to so strongly. And if the price that you have to pay to keep that is Nibbāna, because that is your comfort zone now. Now this is why people will not, the people of that second category, why they won't survive. Because, imagine a Swaminathan who comes in and starts talking about the way you walk, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you basically live your life. And, you've been very comfortable that way for the last 20 years, you've been doing that. And then for someone to come and question all those things. I mean, come on, Swaminathan, come and give me the Dhamma, teach me Paticca-samuppada, that should be it, surely. Why are you questioning about, my life and my relationships and, the way I wear my hair and the way I walk and what I eat? What's that got to do with anything? How is that your business? That's my business. That's my personal business. Every time you say that's my personal business, what you're saying is, that's my comfort zone. What person are we talking about? See, some people are very, very particular about their personal space. That's a very important part, isn't it, for some people? My personal space. Don't encroach my personal space. Step outside that's my personal space. What personal space? Some people are very particular about that. Personal space. And your personal space can only be approached with your consent. Otherwise you feel uncomfortable. That's why if a stranger comes too close to you, you feel uncomfortable. Because I am me and he or she is he or she. And I don't know that individual. I have not given them my explicit consent. Therefore, they should not be walking into my personal space. That's my personal space. So how big is this personal space? I've never actually taken the time to do my research on this. How many square feet around you? I'm just, honestly, this is a very humble, honest question. Does anyone know? How much is your person? Is it arm's length? Or 1.5 arm's length or what? Maybe is it the squats, like splits? Is that how far? No? No one knows. It's the space within which you feel uncomfortable. After, if someone comes any closer, the space that you start to feel uncomfortable, right? So how is anyone else supposed to know? I mean, what's the standard? Is there no standard? Arm's length. 3 feet. 2 to 3 feet. So it's a standard. Google says, we should ask United Nations. So it changes, yes, it changes. I mean, the world is becoming more and more populated, so there will come a point where personal space is, as long as you don't touch my nose, right? Because there won't be enough space for everyone to live on this planet. But, these are those questions that second category, they will feel very uncomfortable. There will be certain topics that I cannot talk about. Certain areas that I am not allowed to. These are forbidden territories. I mean, heck, sometimes I ask you what the difference is between rape and consensual encounters. How is that not rape? And why is rape rape? It's nothing to do with the physical act. It's simply to do with whether you have given consent. So it's purely mental. That's why the others say, I said, bring the rape victims and I'll explain the truth to them. And then they will realize the only difference there was not the physical act, it was merely consent. So that was your own doing. If you'd given consent, it would not have been called rape. I'm not taking it lightly. I know that it's a very traumatic. I assume it's a very traumatic experience for anyone who's gone through that. But there are answers. There's a path out of all of that in the sasana. Because all these problems, they stem from self. Your individuality, your sense of self. And the hardest thing to do is really to help. We think it's helping, but when people feel that they are attacking me, insulting me. Now from time to time I get told off. For when I talk, I sometimes do this. Right? I speak like this. Now, for those in the audience who know Swamin Wahanse and who understand Swamin Wahanse, you're okay with that because you have accepted that in this position is a teacher. And this is not being harsh at me, this is just saying that there's a very immediate concern that we must focus our attention to and our energy to, and we must do it with a sense of immediacy, otherwise it's going to become a huge problem and we are going to suffer. But at the same time, true that there might be individuals from time to time who will say, why is he talking to me like that? Not even my father ever spoke to me like that. Now, what gives him the right to talk to me like that? So then that is not in your comfort zone. Perhaps that might be if I were the principal of the school. But if you have not considered this to be a school of life, then I don't have the authority to do that. Then I have to go like this. Or maybe at some point I have to say, Ane Mahatdev, please Mahatdev, please practice the path Mahatdev. See, comfort zones. That's why I always say, don't come and tell me too much of your personal lives. You need to understand why I say that. Don't come and share with me too much of your personal lives, because then one of these days when I start talking about something and an example comes along, you might think that I'm talking at you. And I'm saying things at you. If you have the maturity to bear that, fair enough. Meaning, if you have allowed Swami Wahanse to walk into your comfort zones and completely destroy it, right? Then it's fine. But if you're guarding your comfort zones with your life, and you shall not let anyone encroach that space because that's your personal space, then it's best that you do not share the ins and outs of your personal lives with whoever the preacher is. Not just this Swami Wahanse, but any Swami Wahanse. And particularly in these talks, the style that we have adopted. You see, have you not figured by now at least that during these Sunday sermons, at the monastery on Saturday sermons, right, we spend little time talking about the Dhamma, but the majority of time we talk about life. And then show you how to marry these two things, the Dhamma into life. That's why it's called Dharmaya Obai, not Obai, but Obai as in you. So for the non-Sinhalese speakers, I must have the courtesy to share with you. Obai is to press, right? So I was doing that, kind of giving the indication that you are pressing the Dhamma. But Obai is also another word for you, right? So the Dharma and you is what Dharma Obai means. That's why we spend the majority of these talks talking about Oba, you, your life. And then I take examples from my own life. I take examples from the lives of individuals that I have lived with. Sometimes you wonder, how did Swami Wahanse say exactly what he talked exactly about my problem, and I've never even shared about this with him. That's because you're not the only one with such problems. We feel that we are so unique. Even when it comes to our problems, we feel that we are so unique. Nothing could be further from the truth. Your problems are not unique to you. Your problem is unique to those specific circumstances. Causes give rise to effect, not you. You need not be there for that effect to have manifested. Causes are what are required for a certain effect to manifest. So if you have ever been cheated on, that's not because you were there to be cheated on. It was because there were certain causes. And because those causes were there to have been cheated was the effect. That's why I need not necessarily know about all your life's ins and outs and ups and downs and the various paths and routes that your lives took, because I just have to take a few lessons from my life, a few lessons from someone else's life, a few lessons from someone else's life, and then once we have all these three things together, now I can be creative. I can take a bit of this lady's life, a bit of this gentleman's life, and a bit of that lady's life, and put the whole thing, three things together, and we start talking about that. 10 in the room will say, that's my life. It's so much like anything that has to have happened has already happened in the world. Right? So you're not living your life for the first time. Someone else has lived some part of that already. Every part of life, even if you live till you're 120, 200, even if you live till you're 200 years old, right? Every day of your life has already been lived by someone else. Maybe it was two different individuals, but the stories are the same. The circumstances are the same. And yet we feel that we are very special. So, when a guy asks a girl out, the girl feels, oh my God, feels so special. This has happened so many times in history. Nothing to oh my God about. Right? God already knows about this. There's nothing to write to God about this. He knows about this, right? This has happened so many times. It had happened ever since human, when Adam and Eve landed on earth, right? There came a day when Adam went up to Eve and said, will you be my wife? It's not in the Bible. But it's the day when he thought that he was a man and she thought she was a woman. Until then, they had no such problem. We talked about that another day, right? So that was just borrowed something from a previous sermon. That's the day they realized that they had to cover up their private parts, because Adam thought that he was a man and Eva began to think that she was a woman. Until then, there was no such distinction, because men and women are not natural. It's all mind fabricated. Energy does not have to take the form that you are. Energy does not have to take any form at all. It always surrenders itself, it succumbs itself to whatever forces act on it. That's why energy has no bias. Energy has no preference. Energy has no state it has to be in. Remember we talked about this last week? How necessity drives all this. Necessity leads to deficiencies, and deficiencies then have to be addressed, and the way that it is addressed is by energy taking up all these various shapes and forms, right? So there is nothing special called a man, nothing special called a woman, but out of ignorance we feel that these differences are very special. That's why if you are a girl, growing up 12, 13 years old, take yourselves back in history or into your past. When you were young, ladies in the room, when you were 7, 8, 9, that sort of age, and remember the first time a boy touched you? They just held your hand. Maybe when you were younger, 3, 4, 5, it meant nothing. Now we see this a little bit at our school, right? So the very young classes, we have our putas and duas together. But after a certain age, we have to separate them. So do you not wonder why? I know you don't wonder, because it seems the obvious thing to do. So why is it that when they're younger, that it doesn't bother them that they're all together? So a boy's touch, a girl's touch does not feel special to them. But after a certain age, this is the age when these drushtis start coming into their heads. Hormones start to do their own thing. Remember that these hormonal changes are all driven by the mind. The mind has a part to play in everything. When the body reaches a certain age, naturally, the body reaches puberty, and then you have all these hormonal changes. Of course, I get that. Whether you know it or not, it happens, right? But still, the way that your body works was once engineered, designed, orchestrated, and architectured in a mind lab. That was the mind that did all of that. This is why when it comes to an age where the nature has to get your body ready to reproduce, then puberty has to kick in. It was all the mind's doing. The mind designed you the way you are. So then this is why when they're very young, we can keep them together, but then later on, we have to split them up. Now, I ask you the question, do you remember the day when a boy or a girl touched your hand? Maybe you just rubbed, just accidentally, for the first time. If you do, it felt magical. It felt very special in some way. You felt like there was a whole chemical, like there was a nuclear reactor going on inside of you. Right? You blushed, your palms went sweaty, your mouth dried up. Remember those reactions that you had? See, why? These are the things that we have to now go back and try and find answers to. You can't just say it was natural. It's not natural, because if you were an arahant at that time, that would not have happened. It's not natural. It's all fabricated. To this day now, see, even now to this day, as a man, a woman, if someone of the opposite gender were to come too close to you, encroach your personal space, you're going to start to feel something funny. You may not like it, you might like it. But it becomes an event to which you feel you have to have a response. You have to either like or dislike. But why does it have to be something you have to like or dislike? That's my question. Why does it have to be an event to which you feel that you have to have a response, a like response or a dislike response, a favorable or an unfavorable response? This is because you process these events in very special ways. You add speciality into these events. The mind does that. This is a product of both your drushti and your ignorance. Ignorance has left you with attachment, and as a result of that, you feel a sense of self. Now, that sense of self is then further fortified by the drushti that you get from the outside world. You recall from when you were younger, but this changes by culture as well. See, and that's how culture has an impact on the way we work, right? In different cultures, things happen differently. So if you remember, this being our culture, when we were younger, our parents, our elders, our adults, teachers, they used to put a lot of things into our heads about, now if you're a girl, right, how you have to be, and the way that you have to conduct yourself. And if you're a boy, how you have to be, and how you have to conduct yourself. Change culture, these lessons change, meaning drushti changes. As drushtis change, then the way that you process these emotions change along the way as well. Did I tell you once? Now, in Sri Lanka, it's very normal, right, for guys to just hang around, put their arm around someone's shoulder. And in the classroom, in Sri Lanka, when it's during lunchtime, what do? We just open our lunch, and then it's like crows flying, right? Everyone's around the same lunch packet, right? Everyone's just eating from the same one, and then we move on to the next one, then we move on to the next one, and that's how we get through lunch, right? And when there's not enough room to sit, you sit on the next guy's lap, because we don't feel culturally that anything's wrong with that. It is not an expression of anything else other than friendship. Little did I know that although that's okay here, it's not okay in some other parts of the world. So when I first went to the UK and I expressed my friendship, people thought that I was trying to express something else. Is that because it is wrong there and right here? No, there's no right or wrong. But you need this cultural awareness, otherwise people will think the worst of you. So I remember to this day, the first time I went and got up close to my friend, the guy I thought, I'd met my first friend. I met my first friend in the UK, right? So I thought, well, now we're friends, right? So we are friends, so we can do friend things that friends do. So I put my arm around his neck, and I got close to him. You know the first thing he told me? Dude, I'm not gay. I mean, it would have been better if he'd slapped me. You can imagine, I mean, that was the last thing that would have crossed my mind. And then to be thought of as someone who was making an advance towards him because I was interested in him in that way. And then that was my first friend. And now imagine what he's going to go around telling other people. So then I had to learn that is not how you express friendship there. Or at least until you get really close with them, you don't do that. And to me, it was new, because I thought friends are friends, Close is enough, close is very close. How much closer can you get? Because we don't have those degrees of closeness. Not certainly during my school days. I don't know how things are now. We didn't have so many levels of closeness. We were like close, and we were like, I don't know, close. Maybe there were like 2 degrees of closeness. But then I learned that there were about 20 degrees of closeness. And then there were all of this to do with personal space. So then I realized I had to leave a bit of distance. So then I moved my chair and I said, okay, then is this far enough for you? I mean, are you okay? Yeah, just, maintain your distance, mate. That's what he said. So I remember this. But, later on we became very, very good friends. And later on I had the the opportunity to explain to him why I had done that on the first day, and then he was quite shocked as well. He said, "What? You sit on each other's laps?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's a very common thing." So that was quite shocking to him. His name is Joe. I still remember him. Good friend. He was a very, very good friend of mine. But you see, these are all comfort zones. Long and short of all this conversation is anchored around comfort zones. I need you to start coming to your own awareness about what your comfort zones are. Like I say, it'll be about, in every aspect of your life, you'll have these comfort zones. Maybe it's the way that you have your furniture laid out. I'm not talking necessarily about OCDs. I'm talking way before that. Right now, an OCD is an extreme case of a comfort zone. It has to be a certain way. And then they will keep checking 100 times whether it is that. But clinically, that is deemed a psychological disorder. But on this side of an OCD, it seems a very natural way to have your comfort zones, right? But what I'm saying to you is that to keep your comfort zones, the price you're paying is Nibbāna. The way you lay out your furniture, you must be okay with anyone coming and rearranging that. And you've got to be okay with that. Now, ladies, when you go to the kitchen, there's a certain way that you'll have your kitchen laid out. Your cutlery should be in one drawer, a certain way. Your pots and pans should be in a certain place, in a certain way. Right? The hand towels that you use, the used ones, the new ones, the clean ones, the laundry ones, they have to be a certain way. Right? Then the way you do your curtains, they have to be done a certain way. Right? You can't just leave them hanging. It has to be tied, and sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right. Right? It has to be done a certain way. All of these are your ways. Remember, your ways are airways to Nibbāna. So you've got to be mindful about these things. The way you put your shirt on, and some of you, maybe, right, you will never consider anything short. No short sleeves. I don't do short sleeves. I always do long sleeves. If that is your way, the price you're paying is Nibbāna. See, these are all very expensive things, I have to say. The price that you pay to maintain your way cannot be counted in rupees and cents or dollars and pounds. The price you pay is Nibbāna. Now, as lay individuals, there are lots of lots of little things like this. Many, millions maybe, little things like this, which you have developed around your life, and these have become your ways. Start to make a mental note about them, and first come to an awareness that these are hurdles to Nibbāna. You've got to be able to allow someone to come and completely turn your house upside down, turn things around, put anything anywhere, and still be comfortable with that. Now, as a proud housewife, if you are one of them, this will be something that will be very difficult for you to do. But you come to Sunday mornings every week. Every Sunday morning, you're the first to get here, and you're the last to leave. I'm not talking about whoever that is. I don't know who the first is to get here, and I don't know who the last is to leave. Just saying. Right? And if I asked you to answer questions from the previous sermons, you will answer them perfectly. Every answer matches exactly what's on the answer sheet. But at home, different story. Allow people to come and ruffle your feathers once in a while. See how that makes you feel. You can use your sofa as a teacher. Did you know that? Your sofa? Use it as a teacher. Next time you have to rearrange things at home, if you're the one who's always done that, ask someone else to do it. Or ask someone else to decide where they go. And you keep shush. And whatever they decide on, be okay with that. Some of you are sweating already. What's up? Can I share another one? There are, this is, I don't know, another one for the ladies. Now there's a way you wear your hair. Okay? So, can you go to the salon next time and tell the, what do you call them? Hairdresser, yes, thank you. Not used one in a long time, so I need reminders. Tell the hairdresser, this is how much money I can pay you, because you have to, of course, budget your salon trip. This is how much money I can pay you, but you do what you like. Off you go. Let them do what they like. But say, I have to go to work, so don't go crazy, right? Don't go crazy, right? But you do what you like. I'm not suggesting you do this. I just want you to mentally ask yourself whether you're prepared for that. That's all. Now don't do this, because next time you'll come here and say, Swami, see what they did to me. And then I'll have to pay you from the Punya Bar to go and get your hair done again. So please, madams, don't do that. But I just wanted to ask yourself, ask mentally in your mind how prepared you are for that to happen. Even your choice of toothpaste. Your choice of toothpaste might also be something that you are very pedantic about. The way you sweep your house, maybe you always have to start in one room and then finish and work your way to the other end of the house. Like I said, make your broom your teacher. One of these days, you take the broom, right, bring it to the middle of the house and just let it drop. Whichever way it falls, start with that room. Wherever it's pointing, right, start with that room. And once you're done with that room, put it up again and then let it drop. Let it fall. I know when you fall, you're just going to give it a tap because you want to fall in a certain, right? Or ask your children, Buddha, which room should I go to next? Because you will have these comfort zones. There is no point in me giving you the Dhamma if you're not going to use it. So I need to help you figure out where you can apply this. This is what I'm doing right now. Helping you spot those nooks and crannies and those little dark places you have in your mind, where you have these preferences, these likes and dislikes, and they never get touched by the Dhamma. The Dhamma never sees, the day of light with them, or the light of day. The Dhamma never sees the light of day with those problems because you don't apply them there. They have become so much of a comfort zone that you don't even think you have a problem now. Is there a side of the bed that you must sleep on? If there is, let the other individual decide that. If you have to always be on the right side, ask them. You decide which side of the bed I'm going to be sleeping on tonight. Little things. These are little things, but you will see how uncomfortable you will be. Even those little things can make you feel very uncomfortable. If you have become used to putting the radio on your way to work, maybe try one of these days without it. If there's a certain channel that you have to watch or listen to, let someone else decide. If you must have your bed tea, wake up in the morning, the first thing you must have is your tea. Right? Without that, you just can't function. Right? Come out of that. Don't become dependent on anything. Because anything you become dependent on is something that keeps you in Sansara. Because that thing and you will only meet in Sansara. Because you don't meet anyone outside of Sansara. All meetings happen where? Where's the venue for all meetings? Sansara. That's the rendezvous for all all encounters. They all happen in Sansara. Maybe you have to be the one who always has the last word in any conversation. Or be mindful. Maybe, you don't even know that, but habitually it has come to a point where you're the one who always has to have the last word in a conversation. Maybe you're one who doesn't speak much at all. And that's not because you have practiced the path and you are now very serene and calm and quiet and you're always in your zen. Maybe not necessarily so, but this is because that is you by definition. By your individual character, you're someone who is very quiet, who doesn't speak much. Then one of these days, how about you pick up the mic, you start talking. Maybe others will say, you were better when you didn't, right? But I want you to be aware of your defilements, these comfort zones into which you lock yourselves, and then you never apply the Dhamma. Because that's your comfort zone. You're comfortable. Please understand why it's called a comfort zone. It's a comfort zone because there's a self within you, and the self has taken on these views that such environments are very comfortable for you, and then, of course, because it aligns perfectly with your view of what feels good, because it's all view-based. There's nothing that actually feels good. It's only your perspective, your opinion, and your perception, right? But when these two things come together, now you feel comfortable there. And I need you to start challenging your personal spaces, your comfort zones. Have a think. In lay lives, there will be countless things like this. Because we have little choice as monks, really. There's very little choice. I can't choose what I eat. I can't choose what I eat it in. I can't choose what I wear. I can't choose where I sleep. I can't choose what I use. All of that is decided by nature. So I have very few things to make my own choice about. Because all those choices have been taken out of my hands. But I remember in my own lay life, I was in control. At least I felt like it, and I liked it. To be in control. We like it when we feel we are in control. Don't we? What's the last thing you want? To be out of control. You want to be in control. To be in control is a good feeling because it means you call the shots. Because it means you can keep everything in your little comfort zone. To keep you from Nibbāna, you don't need big things. Just the tiniest of things is enough. See, Kamaraga is one of the sanyojana, the fetters. Okay? Kamaraga is the pursuit for sensual pleasures. I'm putting it in its simplest form. Kamaraga is the pursuit of sensual pleasures. And sensual doesn't mean necessarily physical. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, all of these are sensual pleasures. So Kamaraga is a fetter that is uprooted at the point one becomes an anagami. Okay? So an individual who has attained anagami state is an individual who no longer comes back to the sensual world because they have now lost interest. No longer is there a pursuit for sensual pleasures, therefore they will never be born again with a tongue. Why? Because the tongue never tastes anything that's out there. Did you know that the tongue actually tastes shapes and not tastes at all? The tongue is sensitive to shapes, not tastes. That's how you have sugar and you have saccharin. These are chemical compounds that have similar molecular structures. And you put the same structure on the tip of your tongue, and there's a trigger. Electrical impulse fires. That goes to your taste center in the brain. That leaves an imprint on the mind, and voila, you experience sweetness. So these are all shapes. Can you imagine how desperate the mind must be to take a shape and get taste out of it? Is it not akin to taking sand and trying to get water out of it? What do you think? Imagine how desperate one must be. How desperate one must be to take a shape. Taste this. How desperate must you be for taste if you wanted to taste this? You think that's silly, right? You'll say, that's not even food. So why would I taste that? No, but that's how taste works. These are objects that come and slot into these little receptors in your tongue, and then they are triggered, and that fires electrical impulse. That is what you interpret as taste. See, that's how desperate the mind is to experience this sensual world. So then when kamaraga, the fetter, is uprooted, you no longer need a tongue, because now the mind does not need an instrument to fabricate, to forge tastes out of objects that have no taste at all. It's not that desperate anymore. And that's why bodily forms take very subtle forms after that. So they don't feel pleasure or pain the way that we do. Actually, I doubt they feel pain at all in the Brahmic worlds. Smell is another faculty that is lost. Not the anagami human I'm talking about. I'm talking about the anagami who's no longer a human. That's why in those Brahmic realms, there is no smell, and neither is there there's no nose, and neither is there a tongue. Because the nose, again, is an effort or is an instrument that converts this to an olfactory sense. What smell is this? This is an object. It has a physical shape. Excuse me. So, what I was saying, the point I was trying to get at was, when you come to a point where you can remove these fetters, kamaraga and patiga. Patiga is, again, the pursuit of, shall we say, conflict. It's when you pursue matters of conflict. That you, not necessarily to say that you want to get into a fight, but these are matters of conflict that the mind pursues. It looks for opportunities to engage in conflicting situations. I'm putting things very lightly here just for the sake of our conversation. I'm not trying to explain to you what kamaraga and patika are. What I'm trying to explain to you here is, at the state of an anagami, kamaraga and patika are fetters that are uprooted. Okay? Still, they are in sansara. Because that is not an arahant I'm speaking of. I'm speaking of an anagami individual who still remains in sansara, meaning even they have comfort zones. They may be tiny, but they're still comfort zones. Even they have comfort zones. So just imagine how big your comfort zones must be. Any anagamis in the house? There are many anagamis. But you see, even anyone this side of an arahant has a comfort zone. Some have massive ones. Some have micro ones. Very minute, but they are comfort zones nonetheless. See, the price you pay for having a comfort zone is Nibbāna. So you must ask yourself whether that is worth paying. Some of you will eat chocolate for as long as it's dark chocolate. I won't have the other. Some of you will eat chocolate for as long as it's white chocolate. I won't have the other. See, get your shopping list out this week and ask yourself, how many of these things are actually in my comfort zone versus things that are just there because I need energy to sustain my body. And in there you will find reasons as to why you are not in Sansara yet. Sorry, why you are still in Sansara. Your shopping list, use it as your teacher. Me, you only meet on a Sunday. Guru Andhra, you only meet once a Saturday. Your shopping list, it's always there with you. I put it up on your fridge, put the magnet on, and as you write things down, before you go shopping, ask yourself, how many for the body, how many for the mind? Must you have sugar with your tea? Is it a must? Some of you are looking at me like, can you have it any other way, Swami? What, does tea come without sugar? Yeah, it does. Try it. They go, yuck. No, that's not yuck. That's your comfort zone. That's yuck. That's your comfort zone. I thought it would be impossible for me to come out of the habit. But I did. I thought it would be impossible. But then I realized, my gosh, the price I'm paying to have a bit of sugar in my tea is Nibbāna. So I have to be able to take my tea with or without. Is there a certain kind of tea bag that you have to use with your tea? I can hear smile, laughs and giggles in the in the audience. Some people looking at each other and going. Husbands looking at the wives, wives looking at the husbands, right? Very interesting. This is like a social experiment. And must you have it with milk? Must it be fresh milk? Must it be with milk? Must it be fresh milk? Must it come with sugar? Can it not come without? Is that not tea still? What would happen to you if you didn't have your tea for 1 week? Would you be a zombie? If that's your comfort zone, apply the Dhamma. Who's you there to have a tea? Who has to have a tea? Where's the you who has to have a tea? Otherwise, what would be the point in me going to these depths of Dhamma, right? This is like, we go to the Mariana Trench, right? To find pure crystals of Dhamma, pearls of Dhamma for you, right? Not for you, I bring it for my own pleasure, but I come and display them to you. And then you have a look and you go, oh, Swaminatha, beautiful Ande Swaminatha. Well, wear them. Don't just look at them and say, wow, Swaminatha, and go home and just, go back to your own regular, usual selves. Use them in your lives. And I'm pointing out the places where you might be able to do, where you might be missing, because you think, Nibbāna, Dhamma is there when I get angry. So you wait for the moment when you're angry to start using it. It's not like that. It's not every day you get angry, but every day you have your tea. The Dhamma is a friend for life. Have them with you all the time. Have it with you all the time. All the time. All of the time. All the time and all of the time. Carry it on your shoulders. Have the Dhamma sit on your shoulders. Carry it around with you. Let it decide whether you go left or you go right. And must you have a shower before you go to bed at night? Must you? What, will you rot in bed if you didn't? I'm not saying, but the other one says I have to, Swaminatha. Not asking about the other one. Asking about you. See, for some individuals, you have to have a shower the moment you wake up. Then you have to have a shower after you get back from work. Then you have to have a shower before you go to bed. I mean, maybe some of you even wake up in your sleep and come and have a shower and go back to bed, do you? Some people are very particular about cleanliness. I don't mean to OCD levels, I mean way before that. That has become your comfort zone. Must you wash your feet every time? Must you wash your hands? I don't mean let's live an unhygienic life. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm all for hygiene. We teach our children hygiene. Wash your hands, wash your back, wash your bottom. Right after you go to the toilet, we teach them to wash both sides. It's a lesson my parents taught me, so I have to teach them. Right? Wash your hands, wash your feet, wash your face, all that we teach them. Wash your underarms, right? All that is done. We teach them all that. I'm not talking about hygiene. I'm talking about your comfort zones. See, this is why that second category don't come to these sermons. Not for many weeks, because how can you listen to all this and go back home? Because now Swaminathan is questioning everything, from the things you do in your living room, to your bedroom, to your bathroom. Now, kudos to you for letting your teacher walk into every nook and cranny of your life. Hats off to you for that. Credit to you for I feel comfortable talking about these things to you. I would feel comfortable anyway, but personally, I would be okay. But if I felt like these things you would find offensive, insulting, and then as a result of that, you would fall out with the Swaminathan, so therefore have a falling out with the Dhamma, then you are going to actually end up falling out with Nibbāna. If that is the path I see, I shall not trek this. I shall not make this trek. But I don't see that now. So now you have allowed me to walk into your homes. So then, therefore, I can take the liberty to prompt you. Must you always wash your feet? Again, hygiene, yes, I get that. But is there something beyond that? So I ask you, one of these days, can you not go to bed, but not have your night shower before you do? See how that feels like. If it feels really uncomfortable, ask yourself, is that the body feeling uncomfortable, or is it the mind that's feeling uncomfortable right now? Who is the me that has to be clean? What me are we talking about? Now, the doctor will, of course, say a million things against this, but are you really uncomfortable going to bed without brushing your teeth? Hygiene? Yes, you must. At least twice a day, brush your teeth. But if you didn't brush your teeth, right, that's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. But if you feel really uncomfortable mentally, that's a comfort zone. That's a comfort zone. That's one reason why you're still struggling to get out of Sansara. Think about this. Now, some people have a habit of brushing soon after they've had a meal. Right? Otherwise, they feel really it feels out of kilter. Just feels like not them. It feels so uncomfortable. You should be okay with that mentally. That's just, there are a million things if we start talking about this. In your mind, start making your own mental list and try it out in the next week. Must you read the paper? Is there a particular website that you have to visit the moment you log onto the internet? Must you check the news? If I didn't do it, I would not be able to get through the day. Is that so? Is that so? Ask yourself. Say hundreds and hundreds and thousands of examples. Once in a while, let someone else make these choices for you. Let someone else make these choices for you. And see how you feel about them mentally. In the car, there's a certain seat that's reserved for you. Unless, of course, you're the driver, in which case, always sit there. But if you're not the driver, then must you always sit at the front? And must you always sit at the back? Is it not okay for you to sit elsewhere? I mean, you get motion sickness and whatnot. Okay, I get it. Sit at the front if that's where you have to sit. Otherwise, you will be leaving your mark in the car. And the car owner will not like that very much. But if not, then why? There are at the restaurant, if you go to a restaurant, sometimes people have to have a certain drink. I'm not going to drop any names, but there are certain drinks that you must have. It's a must-have. Everyone knows around the dining table. Everyone knows she always gets one of those. When the waiter comes and says drinks, yeah, one this one for her because that's what she always has. Okay, put brand names to the side. She always has to have a lassi. Lassi for her, and for others, you can take the order. Always the lassi. Why? Have you become addicted to certain things because now they are in your comfort zones? Can't you have still water? Must it be carbonated? Is it getting to that point now? From the side of bed to which pillowcase, to which bedding, right? To which room, to where you sweep, to where you sit in your car, all of these things. Some people get really annoyed when they see the toilet seat is up or down, for that matter. That really drives them up the wall. You know, divorces have been had because people were that annoyed by the position of the toilet seat. People have been divorced because of that. Comfort zone. Now I'm talking about something even bigger than a divorce. This is going to be, losing a husband is okay, you can find another one. But, sorry husbands. But if you lose Nibbāna, there's not going to be another Nibbāna. Right? Whether you have it today or tomorrow, it's the same Nibbāna. You've got to be okay with everything. And anything. Acceptance is one word for Nibbāna. I've told this to you before. One word for Nibbāna, if you want to find the closest matching term in the dictionary for Nibbāna, I'll say it is acceptance. Acceptance. Accept whatever. So as I said, when I spoke to our Swami Nuances the other day, don't feel the need, right, to come clean. And don't feel the need to convince the other party that you're innocent. Don't feel the need for that. If someone asks you whether you're guilty, be truthful. But if they still keep on accusing you, be okay with that. The bigger your ego, the harder it is to do this. Typically people are okay if they're accused for something they have done. Typically people are okay with that. I mean, in society you have people who will still fight with that as well, like to try and somehow prove that it is not they who did it, not because of the financial cost or anything, but because of it's an attack on their dignity, on their self, their ego. Their ego is hurt. But if you are truly someone who applies the Dhamma, these are those moments where you can apply the Dhamma, where your ego is hurt. It's a time when you have not engaged with the Dhamma. Did I give you the analogy last week about engaging? No? Did I? Oh no, that was the Sinhalese sermon. Yes. Excuse me. So I'll give you an analogy. This is what I want people to do when they're outside of this room. See, at the sermons, your teacher, whoever the Swami Nuances is, or if it's a lay individual, your Dhamma teacher, okay, can help you start rotating can start off your engine. So this is the engine. This hand represents the engine. So now your engine is in motion. Okay? This is your wheel. This is the wheel. It's not sufficient for the engine to be revving and for there to be power in the engine. The engine's running. Does the car move? If the engine's running, does the car move? No, because you've got to release the clutch. Yeah? For as long as the clutch is engaged, these two parts are distant to each other. They are not in contact. So what happens when you release the clutch? When you actually release the clutch, these two components engage. So here's the Dhamma, your engine, and here's your life, the wheel. When these two things engage, that's when the energy in the engine is transferred to the wheel of your car, that is your life. It is only then that the car starts to move. If the destination is Nibbāna, then the car has to get you there. You have to get to Nibbāna, and that can only happen when these two things remain engaged. This engagement, not disengagement, this engagement will happen when you're mindful. That is why mindfulness is pretty darn important when it comes to your sasanic practice. Super important, mindfulness. And the pity is, mindfulness is not something that someone can observe from the outside. Meaning, I cannot say when you're being mindful and when you're not being mindful. I cannot say that. I cannot tell. Now, if you came up to me and related back to me the sermon that I gave to you last week, I can listen to it, and if there's anything wrong, I can correct it, because you're expressing your understanding. But mindfulness is not something you can come up to me and ask, Swaminatha, am I being mindful? My only answer can be, how can I know whether you're being mindful or not? We are having a conversation about mindfulness. Am I now being mindful? I don't know. Maybe you're unmindfully having a conversation about mindfulness. Meaning, you think at this moment that you are having a conversation with me. So there's the you and there's the me. Then there's no mindfulness there. When you're mindful, there cannot be a you or a me in your mind. Right? Because that is what the application of Dhamma does to you. It stops fabricating, it stops that manufacturing process, at least temporarily. That manufacturing plant is temporarily suspended. What do you manufacture in that plant? Self, a sense of self. Not self, but a sense of self. So when the mind is engaged, by which I mean the Dhamma is engaged with your life, walking, talking, driving, reading, speaking, eating, anything, doing whatever, if you remain engaged, then the Dhamma, the energy of the engine is transferred to your life. Therefore, the wheel turns. As the wheel turns, the vehicle moves forward. But here's what the majority of people do. Most people don't even come to the talks, therefore their engines never start. Among them, there's 1% that will come to the sermons. At the beginning, turning this is going to be incredibly difficult because this is rusty. Never turned before. Right? It's so rusty, never been greased, never been oiled. Right? This is an engine that has never, ever had any sort of energy gone through that system. Then your teacher has to do most of the heavy lifting here. Of course, with your merits, the more merits you have, the more grease there is, the less friction there is to this. That's what merits does. That's what merits do, rather. The more merits you have, the less friction there is, the less resistance there is, and the less effort that the teacher has to put in to start your engine off. So you see, whether you have seen the Dhamma or not, merit is always good. Okay? So now then, once the teacher has kick-started your engine, now this engine starts to turn. So once you have seen the Dhamma, this won't stop again. Once the wheel has started to turn, it will never stop again. Certainly not until you have exited Sansara. No Samana, no Brahmana, no Deva, no Mara can stop the wheel once the wheel has started to turn. But something has to happen soon after. You have to then have sati, which is mindfulness. Mindfulness is essential to release the clutch. When you release the clutch, the mechanism transfers the energy in this apparatus, in this mechanism to the wheel, and then the wheel starts to turn. The engagement of these two things is what sati does, mindfulness. The turning of this wheel with the engine is samadhi. That is what samadhi is. Actually, the word samadhi conveys the idea that the mind is closely associated with the Dhamma. That's what samadhi actually means. So what posture must you be in? What physical posture must you be in? Exactly. There needs to be no posture. There's no requirement for a posture for you to be in. I'm talking about the mind's engagement with the Dhamma. That is samadhi. But then lifting this driving mechanism up to the wheel, that is what sati does, mindfulness does. Now, you tell me, most of the time, are you mindful or unmindful? Unmindful. And you know that this is the problem. Now you see, you listen to the Dhamma, you know the principles, you know the theory, you know the doctrine, right? But the majority of time that we spend at home, out there, on the streets, at work, we forget to apply what we have learned in the classroom. What happens then? This wheel doesn't turn. If anything, it's turning the opposite direction. And therefore, the vehicle is going down. So it's actually closer to this than anything else. It's not like your car is stationary. Your car is on a constant hill. Your car is on a constant hill. Here is Nibbāna, the point where the path ends. If you can drive off this, that will be the end of your story. But on the other side, there's no end. It's never ending. It's infinite, infinitely long, that path. So when your car's here, when your car's there, the pen, sorry. Is that better? So this is Nibbāna. I said on this side, this is Sansara. Okay? Infinitely long. This is your car. For once I've drawn a car that resembles something like a car. That's your car. Even to keep it here, you have to engage. You know what clutch balancing is, right? Yeah. So even to keep it here, you have to engage your clutch. But the moment you release, or rather the moment you stop transferring energy from the engine to the wheel, what happens to the vehicle? Starts going downhill. This requires effort, requires energy, mindfulness. What mindfulness does is it transfers the energy that's generated in the engine to the wheel so that the wheels keep on turning. And only if the wheel turns will the vehicle move up and get you Nibbāna. But remember, this is not something you have to do forever. It's not a forever thing. There's an end to this journey. If you keep on doing it just long enough, right? Keep doing it long enough, you will get to the end of this path. And then from there on, you're free. You no longer need to do it again. But every time you are lax, every time you relax, every time you're slack, every time you let go, every time not let go as in let go of detachment, every time you let go of your practice, every time you remain unmindful, the vehicle goes down the incline. And all that has to be driven back up again. Let's not forget that. So if you're here now and you relax and the vehicle is down here, right? The moment you engage again, you can't just cut and paste it up here because you were here a few moments ago. You can't be like that. It will keep on going. See, this can only be done by a Sotapanna. At least someone who's a Sotapanna, because until then, there is no going up to Nibbāna. It's constantly going down. From the moment you came into Sansara, constantly going down. By going down, I mean in this analogy. It's a journey that has to be taken back up. But do you see why mindfulness is so essential then? Because mindfulness is what? The application or the actual engagement, rather than application, it's actually the engagement. Engagement of Dhamma with your life, with your comfort zones, the ones we talked about a few moments ago. That's why the Dhamma is not just there for when you get angry. Use it when you get angry as well. It's going to be difficult then, but use it. It's not only when you feel lust. It's not for only when you feel disappointment. But it's for the everyday things in life as well. It's when you like your tea with another spoonful of sugar. It's for then as well. Are you someone who still checks how much sugar is there in their tea? Then you are that further from Nibbāna. And you thought this was going to be a walk in the park. Ask yourself, when you get your cup of tea and you put it in your mouth and take that first sip, right? When you take that first sip of tea, your mind is going to a rapid state of answering a million questions at that time. Is it right? Is it the right temperature? That's one. Is it the right strength? The kahata. Is it the right amount of sweetness? Where's the biscuit? Is it my cup? Is it my cup? Is it the right water? Some people taste even a change in water in their tea. Very particular. I mean, tea is a culinary art nowadays, isn't it? Not nowadays, it's been like that for a long time. But, the more you leave yourself in samsara, the more these things will take center place in your life. I try to tell you, honestly. Coffee, tea, they will go from being merely beverages to keep your body running to experiences of the soul. It will be. How many types of coffee are there now? More than you can remember. Yeah, there are the cappuccinos, there are the mochas, there are the espressos, lattes. See? It's not just a beverage anymore. I mean, put coffee to aside, water is no longer just a substance to sustain yourself. Now it's an experience of the soul. Flavored water, sparkling water. I don't know what else do they do with water these days? Do they have things floating in water? What water? Flavored water, then filtered water, spring water. People taste, they can taste maybe I don't know whether they can or not, but they seem to say that they can taste. All of these things become experiences. And they call it it's living with finesse. Okay. You see why people don't come? The second category, they don't come. They'll come 1 or 2 weeks, and then after that they'll decide, no, this is not for me. How can I let Swaminathan say piss on my parade? And this is your perahara, right? Life, all these experiences, this is your perahara, right? How can I let Swaminathan come and pick holes in it? Give me a philosophy which agrees with my current lifestyle, and I will take it. Then you don't need a philosophy, you already have one, is what I have to say. If your philosophy is right, if your religion is right, then why do you come here? Only come here if your philosophy is broken. If your religion is broken, come here. That's the only reason to get here. If the Buddhism that you believe in is broken, then come here and put Buddhism to a side, leave it out there. Don't bring it in. With your slippers, leave it. Come in and then I will teach you that this is not about Buddhism, this is about the way your mind works. So, you will find yourselves in social circles, right, that will encourage you to start getting yourselves involved in these experiences for the soul. Mark my words, if it hasn't happened already, it will soon. Because we are getting to a point there. Society keeps on driving itself into these, like I said, living with finesse. It's the lifestyle. Because that's what it is. That is what it is. Once you've educated yourself to a certain level, once you've earned yourself enough to, not have to keep the wolf at the door, and you've got 3 square meals, right? And it's all good. You have a car, you have a house, you have enough bedrooms, you have your children, they're in good schools, right? And the wife doesn't have to work anymore, right? Maybe the husband doesn't have to work anymore, and life is reasonably good. After that, then your attention shifts to improving your lifestyle. That's where attention shifts to. I tell you, Colombians, right, this will happen. If it hasn't happened already, it will happen to you soon. This happens less so to the Achyama who lives in the village. But it will happen more so in the social circles in which you find yourselves. Right there, you will be invited to the high teas, right? Where you have to have your a bit of this, a bit of that. It's always that. It's a bit of this and a bit of that. A bit of cake, a bit of pudding, a bit of cheese, a bit of chocolate, a bit of tea, a bit of coffee, a bit of this and a bit of that. So you will have to go through this experience. You were not born this way. These were all indoctrinations that were put into your head, that this is the lifestyle that you now have to live. Please remember, the price you're paying is Nibbāna. Because the mind has an infinite potential to attach things. There's not a limit to what the mind can attach to. Okay? There's no limit to how much the mind can attach itself to. It can attach itself infinitely to limitless things. The only thing to where there is a limit is letting go. Because once you let go of yourself, there is nothing else left to let go. So you see, on this side, there's an end. But on the other side, there is no end. That's why I drew infinity here. So this is a number line where 0 on one side and infinity on the other. There are no minus numbers on this. Once you're gone, you're gone. People will interest you in pets. Maybe you've come to a point in your life now, everything else is good, right? Children are fed, no mortgage, or mortgage is comfortably paid, right? You have a decent job, right? Husband, wife, they're reasonably comfortable, right? No extramarital affairs, all good, right? But now you need a pet. They will tell you that you need a pet. They will tell you. And then once you get that pet, then you have to join the pets club. You have to then join the pets club. So then they will have different clubs for different pets. So the dog club, maybe they call the kennel club, Then you have the cats club, the feline club. Right? Then if you have a hamster at home, maybe there's a hamster club. If you have an aquarium at home, then there's the aquatic club. Right? You will have these various clubs that you have to be a member of, and they'll even give you the badge you can stick on your car. Then there's a membership that you have to pay for that. And as part of being a member of this club, people will get together, like-minded individuals will get together, and they'll start talking about dog things. Right? How to groom your dog, how to take your dog out for a walk, where you have to take them, how to dress your dog, how to brush its teeth, right? How to untick it, how to give it a pedicure and a manicure, right? How to give a massage to your dog. I mean, heck, it's an animal. Who's the animal now, I have to ask. So you acquired all this merit in Sansara, right? To come out of the 4 great hells, you just about went into becoming a dog, but you saved yourself somehow because of the sheer power of your merits, and now you have become a human. Now the next thing that's left to do is what? Invest that human years into grooming an animal from the 4 great hells. What a wise investment choice. Just don't invite me to that investment club. I mean, take lessons from someone who walked that walk. I was there. We had dogs at home. And whilst I was not a fanatic, right, there were still bits of that started to encroach my life. That's why I say I went to the gig and I bought the t-shirt. So now I'm trying to help you stay away from these distractions. These are all distractions. Because when you have enough to feed your family, now you need another distraction. That's the thing. When you have a roof above your head, now you need another distraction. So you go looking for one. And then there's a galore of distractions. The world's your oyster, they say, don't they? You just have to go and knock and they'll give you another distraction. So once you're done with the dog, now you have to attend to your cat. So there's a club that will teach you this, they'll teach you that. Then you can go online and find out how to groom your cat, how to take your cat out for a walk, how to have the cat litter at home, right? How to train your cat to do this and to do that. Right? And then maybe even to give the cat a name, you go to the astrologer now. I wouldn't be surprised. Those days you just could call it Kitty, but no, not anymore. You can't start its name with K because it was born on that day, on this month, under this star sign. One of these days, the astrologer will read that horoscope and say, whose is this? It looks like they're going to be a monk one day. And I say, no, that's my kitty. Oh, really? Oh, sorry. Then people will make a business out of it. And they will exploit your innocence, your innocence. Oh, people are very good at that. To exploit your innocence. If you tell people you've got money, they'll tell you how to spend it. They will. When you first got your fish tank, it was just for a bit of fun. Now you got some water, a small tank, and some guppies. That was it. But then, it went from mere relaxation to now it's not a relaxation anymore. It is something that takes away your relaxation. It has become a job now, hasn't it? I mean, you can't even eat the buggers. Right? Because they're pet fish. Because you've given them names now. They're part of the family. Now there's Ayya and Malli and Akka and Nangi and all of them in that tank. So how can you eat them? I mean, at least if you could make a meal out of it, worth the investment. But you can't do that either. So nothing for the body. Then this has become an experience for the soul. You're nourishing your soul. But what happened? You went and told people that you had money and they told you how you could spend it. First, you just wanted some relaxation because they said in some therapy or some class, look at a fish tank and count to 10 and you'll be fine. That's how to control your anger. So you brought the fish tank home. But then you went online. And then you went and talked to your friends. And then they came around and said, oh, I have another one at home. And, I've got the goldfish, and I've got these ones, and I've got those ones, and I've got the catfish, and I've got the dogfish, and I've got this fish and that fish. You should get some. They are beautiful, man. So you bought the bull. You buy anything they say, they buy, you buy. Now, isn't your fish tank a palace? If you have one at home, just think about it. It's an aquarium on its own, isn't it? I mean, you could get people to come and buy tickets to show the thing. It's that entertaining now. It's an item. You're spending precious human hours, life. Looking after animals who will never come out of the Four Great Hells because they have no hope. Until their demerit has been expired, that is where they're going to be for a long, 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 long time. In the meantime, you're spending your merits for little, if not no return. Because attending to fish does not earn you any merits. Because what virtue do those fish have? If you want to earn merits, you have to invest your merits in something that is virtuous. Invest in a bank that pays a good dividend, then you get a better return. But you're putting hard-earned money in a bank that pays 0.0000000000001%. I'm not saying it's absolutely no merit, because they're animals after all, but how much? Hardly anything at all. So it's like investing $1 million, 10 years later, they give you $1 million and a penny. You really got to be mindful about your lives, ladies and gentlemen. How you live your lives, you have to be more sensible about it. Because this will take time. You have to remain engaged. Now, if you have your pets at home and that is where you're going to be spending your time, and there's nothing you can do about it, that it has to remain there, then at least be mindful while you're doing it. Remind yourself that there are no fish in this tank. This is just dukkha. Like I said, look, but don't see. Look at the tank, but don't see a tank. Look at a fish, but don't see fish. You remember what we're talking about? We've just spoken about this, right? Go to the party, but don't see a party. See dukkha. Now I speak to you about these things particularly because you associate with a certain caliber of society, a certain class in society. And you're fortunate enough to be there, but at the same time, people will come and put all sorts of garlands around your neck, and through that they will tug you into their lifestyle of Sansara. You will forget one of these days that you're actually in Sansara. You'll forget that. You will forget that you have to die one day. You will forget that because people will keep you preoccupied with everything. Tell people you have time and they'll find you something to do. Tell people you have money and they'll find something to sell to you. So don't tell people you have either of these two things. Have money, but don't announce it. Don't advertise it. Have time and don't announce that either. They'll invite you to the party. And then if you don't turn up, they'll be mad at you for not doing so. If you have time, invest it in your Sansara, in your Nibbāna. If you have money, invest it in your Nibbāna. Because this is money you spend very hard to acquire. You work very hard to acquire. Nothing comes for free. You might have been born into a wealthy family. Okay, maybe part of your wealth is inherited. Right? Therefore, you are not the one who worked hard for it. Your parents handed it over to you. But let's not forget that you don't get anything for hard work. You get things because of merit. Otherwise, how come people work their socks off but they earn very little money at the end of the day? Right? People labor, they break their backs doing some work, right? Climbing trees, very risky jobs, going out to sea, right? Risking their lives and limbs, but hardly earn anything at all. So hard work doesn't necessarily pay. It's not hard work that pays, it's merit that pays. Therefore, if you have much of anything, or at least some of something, that is because it is your merits that you have done which have earned you this. Therefore, invest it in something that will give you at least the same, if not more. So if you're now considering taking on a pet, I'm not going to say do it or don't. I'm going to say please make the right choice. If you already have pets, again, I'm not saying disown them or to keep them. I'm saying make the right choice. If you need one because you feel lonely at home, that's because you are yet to understand that there is no one at home to feel lonely. You feel you are at home, therefore you feel lonely. Where's the you at home? Where's the you at home to feel lonely? Isn't that the self crying out loud saying, hey, I'm alone, I'm here and I'm alone, I'm here and I'm alone, can I find someone to be with? That's what happened. That's where you went wrong 40 years ago. What did you do 40 years ago? Yes, that. You said, I'm alone, can someone please be with me? And to this day, you still feel alone. You feel lonely. So then that was not the remedy, was it? Never fixed it. Loneliness cannot be resolved through companionship. Because who's the other person in the companionship? They're also lonely. How can a sick man treat a sick man? Companionship is not the remedy to loneliness. The eradication of a self is the answer to loneliness, not companionship. No two companions are ever happy. They're just scratching each other's backs. That's what they're doing. That's why when it doesn't work, you try another one. When that doesn't work, try another one. Try another one. Try another one. For how long? We were not born incomplete. I mean, when your mind is born, it's not born incomplete. You make it incomplete. Through a lack of understanding of the Dhamma. The mind is born complete. Chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññānaṁ. That is a complete chitta on its own. It does not need support. It does not need companionship. It does not need someone to hold its hand. It does not need someone to live with or get along with. It does not need, because a chakku viññāna is a standalone, complete unit. Doesn't need support. But what happens? It is born into a bed of ignorance. And that ignorance constantly keeps saying, hey, you're a self. And the chakku viññāna goes, really? I don't feel it. Well, then you got a problem on your hands. Oh, really? And then the chakku viññāna gets stressed. It gets vexed. And then what happens? It vexes itself enough to then fabricate a sense of self. The chakku viññāna was simply supposed to see, but now there's a seer. Not a mere seeing. There's a seer. The someone who sees. That was born in the process. That was the product of the defiling process. Because there was ignorance when chakku viññāna came into the picture. That's why I say you're all born Buddhas. But then you let Mara come and encroach your life. Why don't you put a personal space boundary to Mara? Why don't you do that? You just let Mara come and walk all over you. Did I not tell you one of those days? What the Bodhisattva realized under the Bodhi tree was that he had always been a Buddha. And therefore, he stopped trying to become one. That's what I'm just telling you again. Chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññāna. Sotanta paticca saddecha uppajjati saddha viññāna. Also, saddha viññāna. Right? These are all Buddhas. They're all Buddhas. Sorry, Sotanta Paricca Saddha Uppajjati Sota Vijnana. Chakkunja Paricca Rupa Uppajjati Chakku Vijnana. Jivhanja Paricca Rasa Uppajjati Jivha Vijnana, and so on. These are all Buddhas. But they are born into a bed of ignorance. As at the mind base, you have ignorance, which is basically a lack of understanding of anicca, dukkha and anatta. Because of that, the moment that vijnana is born, ignorance screams out saying, hey, what are you doing? I'm seeing. Where's the seer? There's no seer. What? There has to be a seer. What? Really? Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to have a seer. And then what happens? It gets into this deep state of vexation because it's now supposed to have a seer. That's what happens. So as you hear this, what happened? Saddeta, paticca sotecha, or sota paticca sabdecha, uppajjati sota vijnana. Ear consciousness or sound consciousness, hearing consciousness was born. But alas, it was born into a bed of ignorance. And ignorance says, what are you doing? So ignorance asks, what are you doing? And then sota vijnana says, hearing. Who? Asks the ignorance. What? Who? What do you mean by who? Yeah, you're supposed to be someone to hear. What? I didn't know that. Yeah. And then what happens? That sota vijnana goes into vexation. It's like, going back to my previous biblical reference, when Adam and Eve were not separated by gender, they had no gender difference. Right? But what did the serpent say? You're a man and you're a woman. And then they were like, what man, what woman? What do you mean man, woman? You look at yourselves. You're man and woman. So you have private parts which you must cover up. Oh, really? Hey, right, find something. That's when gender was born. Initially we were genderless. There were no genders. But now how many are there? See how much people cannot be satisfied with just what they get? That's why it's always endless. Everything in life, every aspect of our existence, ladies and gentlemen, is endless. How many types of tea are there? How many types of coffees are there? How many types of noodles are there? How many types of rice are there? How many haircuts are there? How many varieties of shoes are there? How many types of water are there? How many types of buildings are there? How many types of, you name it. Everything is infinite. Why? Because the mind cannot be content. Therefore, the universe keeps on expanding. So the good lady asks the question, if you are used to taking your tea with sugar, that's your comfort zone. Assuming it's your comfort zone, then you decide, right, I've got to do something about it. And then you decide from here on, I'm not going to take sugar. Could that not become a new comfort zone? Of course it can. Of course it can. See, the distinction here is not whether you take sugar or not with your tea. Right? It's about you making whatever situation a comfort zone out of it. So if you want to stop falling into this trap, I can even suggest something like this. Have a coin in your kitchen. Before you make your tea, toss it. Right? And then you toss the coin, you catch it in your hand, look at it. If it's not the one you want, turn it around. Right? Flip it over. Now it's the one you want, right? That's what people would do. Or keep flipping it until you get the right one. So, you can cheat yourself if you want. Remember, it's who you're cheating is yourself, no one else. But if you really want to do this, like I said, make the coin your teacher. Let the teacher decide whether you take today's tea with or without sugar. Let the teacher decide. To have a teacher is to always have your comfort zones challenged. That is what it means to have a teacher. To have your comfort zones challenged. That's why it's easier to get to Nibbāna when you're at the monastery. Because in your lay lives, people don't they don't dare challenge your comfort zones because it's considered rude. It's considered impolite. It's considered encroaching on someone's personal space, personal preferences. Because what do we consider as courtesy? Courtesy is when you let people be comfortable in their comfort zones. So when you burp, what are you supposed to do? Excuse yourself. When you fart, what are you supposed to do? Excuse yourself. Why? Why don't you clap and then excuse? Because that was also a sound. Because what you release when you burp is gastric air. What you release when you fart is also air, but from the other side. And it might have a smell, a stench, which other people in the room may not like. Right? They may not like it. Therefore, it's now challenging their comfort zones. Therefore, you're now supposed to excuse yourself. But when you clap, not so. They want you to clap because that's what everyone's doing right now. So you don't have to clap and apologize, but you have to fart and apologize. See? Because in society, that's what society is. It's a collection of individuals who have all agreed amongst each other, let me live in my comfort zone as long as I don't challenge and bother yours. Let me be in my comfort zone. Isn't that why along your street you have a house and then there's a wall around it? What is that boundary? What does that boundary indicate? What does that say? This is my comfort zone. Within these four walls, I do what I want. Within these four walls, I do what I want. Don't anyone come to me and tell me what I can do and cannot do in my own home, on my own land. You might have even heard yourself say this to other people from time to time. It's my house, it's my place, it's my flat, I can do what I want. Right? You may have heard yourself say these things. Because that's your comfort zone now. So in your comfort zone, you can do whatever you want. But at the monastery, I don't have my room, my bed, my alms bowl, my robes, or my anything for that matter. Anything and everything about me can be questioned by the Mahasangha. No holds barred. No personal spaces. That doesn't mean we just keep bumping into each other physically. No, there's enough room for all of us to be, but there's no mental, psychological, personal space. Anything can be questioned. If I spend too much time in the toilet, someone can come and ask me, why have you been spending so much time in the washroom? If I'm true to my Nibbāna, then I must feel obliged to answer that question. But in my lay life, if someone were to come and ask me, why are you spending so much time in the washroom? Mind your own business. Right? That's what you would say. See, at the monastery, I have no right to say, mind your own business, because their business is my business. That's what happens when you forgo your ego at the feet of your teacher and the Mahasangha. It is an admission that there is an ego, please help me kill it. It's not to say I have no ego. It's to say there is one, but I'm sick of it now. Help me come out of it. Why is lay life lay? Because there you can keep your ego. You're permitted your ego. You're allowed your ego. And with ego comes your comfort zone. Meaning that is ego's zone. Do not enter. See, don't you have many do not enter signs? Not literally, figuratively, metaphorically. If someone comes and asks you, why do you wear your hair like that? Stranger comes and, why do you wear your hair like that? I say, because I want to. Yeah, but I don't like it. Should I ask you for permission? Since when should I ask you? Who are you to me? Might be your response. That you mind your own business. This is my business. See, now you have your own businesses. Right? There's my business, his business, her business, their business, our business. There are so many businesses. This is an empire of businesses. But at what cost? Nibbāna. In Nibbāna, you cannot have businesses. You can only be the universe. And so allow the universe, by universe you mean anyone and everyone, allow them to come and question. But we cannot let that happen in our lay lives because our lay lives allow us, permit us to be comfortable. Actually, a lay life is another word for a comfort zone. You can even let that happen in the monk's life if you want to. Right? If you want to completely destroy your Nibbāna, you can let that happen. So a monk might also choose to say, right, you know what, I don't want people questioning my choices, my decisions, therefore I want to live by my own rules. Sometimes they might even choose to ignore some of the Buddha's rules and say, no, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want a teacher, I want to live by myself so that I can live comfortably the way I want. At what cost again, I ask? And the answer is obvious. The answer should be obvious. So if my teacher says, today you will sleep on the floor and not on a bed, then by teacher I mean the Mahasangha. It doesn't have to be Guru Handru. It doesn't have to be Guru Handru. That is just the appointed teacher. But the Mahasangha is my teacher. Why do I say Mahasangha and not the man next door? Why Mahasangha? Because I know that the Mahasangha's business is my Nibbāna. They are invested in my salvation. That is why they are called the Sangha. Maha meaning the great, that's all. The great Sangha. The Sangha is a community of like-minded individuals who are all there, each and every one of them. They're all there because they know that they have an ego, unless of course you're an arahant, right? But they all want to be free from it. Therefore, they will permit and allow and even entertain and encourage and invite you. Sabba dukkha nissarana is that. Nibbāna sacchikaranattāya. Ivankāsāvanga hitva pabbājeta mambhante anukampang upadāya. See, with compassion towards me. Anukampang upadāya, with compassion towards me, pleased may I have those robes and please accept me into your community, the community whom I most respectfully invite to challenge each and every one of my comfort zones. That is the invitation in another word. Therefore, every time we live there, we are questioned. We must be open for questioning, that's all. Not that we always keep around questioning people, but we must be open to that. Cannot live in our comfort zones. So, I'll take a very simple example. Now, when I take my alms, if I go an alms round at the monastery, right, when you bring alms to the monastery and we have the Dhamma, right? If I take 2 servings of any one dish, let's say we have something, right? You want to serve mallu, and I take 2 spoonfuls of that, I must be comfortable with the Mahasangha questioning my decision to take 2 spoons of that, only 1 spoon of the other. Do you see the extent to which I remain accountable for my choices and for my actions? In lay life, if someone came up to you and asked, why do you take 2 pieces of chicken? Hello? It's my house, my car, my petrol, my rules. Your house, you've cooked the food, right? You are going to serve yourself, and someone comes and says, why do you take 2 pieces of chicken? What do you mean, why? It's my chicken. I can take all the chicken I like. You got a problem with that? That's what you would say, right? But you cannot do that in a monastic life. So my teacher can tell me when to shower, when not to shower. By teacher, I don't necessarily mean just Guru Handru. I mean the community of the Sahasanga. Anyone who is vested in my Nibbāna is allowed and permitted and encouraged and invited is the key word. I entertain that. Question anything and everything I do. So they must be able to say, don't shower tonight. If assume I've just come out of the shower, go take another shower. But I just come out of it. Yeah, that's fine, go take another one. Okay. But the full one? Yeah, full one, go. Soap and everything, yeah, soap and everything, go. Okay. Have you brushed? Yes, just did. Brush again. Just imagine in lay life if someone actually did that to you. You just brushed and you come out of the washroom, go brush again. I just brushed. No, it's fine, go brush again. Why? You don't need a why. That's what Nibbāna is. Right? In the monastic, if you are a true monastic, there has to be no need for a why. If you are ready for that, come. If you're not ready for that, come when you're ready. Not don't come. Come. Because this is the only place after all. But come when you're ready. So if you are prepared to wear your hair some other way, see, when you become a silmanio, what do? They shave your head. And it's a big deal, isn't it? Now, typically when we have seen Silmanian Vahanses ordained in the Sasana, actually it's quite a drama, that part of it. Like the cutting the hair, and the hair is kind of like, it's a centerpiece. It gets a lot of attention because it's symbolic about the fact that they are prepared to let go of something so precious. Why is hair precious after all? Should hair be precious? No, but to a lay individual, to the lay community who host these programs and who make a drama out of it, everything's a drama, isn't it? Who make a drama. Your life is a drama to your next door neighbors. Go ask them. Half the time they're talking about it. Over tea, they're talking about your life just as you're talking about them during your tea time. But no, you don't do that now, do you? Good. So that becomes a drama. Why is that a drama? Because hair for a woman is quite a big thing. But if you came to the sasana, now assume you came as an anagarika, because for the anagarikas we don't shave their heads, right? But if you came as an anagarika and you had long hair, assuming say hair you'd grown for the last 10 years and now it's almost the length of your knee, assume that, right? We say, right, cut it. What's the one question you can't ask? Why? Just because. You might wonder, what? But isn't that a human right? What human? Yes, it's a human right. Do you want to remain one? That's what I would have to ask. Do you want to remain one? A human? If you wish to remain a human, then you go checking for your human rights. But if you don't want to remain a human, then you can only get universal rights. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. These are the universal rights, no human rights. See, one of these things I'm planning on training our children at the Noble Hearts is now, from time to time, our beloved parents, they bring like confectionery items, sometimes cakes and things like that, biscuits and stuff, right? So what I've asked our teachers to do is one of these days, get the children sat down with their cakes on their dishes, ready to eat, and then they do the pratyaksha, which we always have to do. But before they eat it, take it away. I know what you're thinking. Heartless these people are. Huh? These people are heartless. How can you do that to a kid? Take it away. Take it away and say, Puta, no cake today. Go have some water. We'll give the cake another day. But on that day, they have set their expectations. Now they're ready, they want to have it. But we collect it, take it away. Assume someone's got a bit on their finger, go wash it. Before they stick it in their mouth, go wash it. What's the one question they cannot ask? Why? They can ask. But what I mean is, that's the one question they must not feel the need to ask. But don't we feel that whenever people treat us a certain way, we need an explanation for that? Don't you feel that? We need an explanation? If someone treats someone else another way and you another way, and you, especially if you feel discriminated, right? Don't you ask for explanations? And don't you feel like you have a right to an explanation? At what cost? Nibbāna. That's why they don't come to these talks. The second category. Because it's uncomfortable. Doing these things is very uncomfortable. Allowing your borders to be shattered, your boundaries to be crossed, your walls to be collapsed, allowing all that to happen. Allowing your personal space to be encroached and completely obliterated. Allowing all that to happen is Nibbāna. That is the process of Nibbāna, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that it has to be, you have to be able to get there on day one, but if you are true to your practice, you must be ready to let that happen at the right time. And who decides the right time? You. Then that becomes another choice. Your teacher decides the right time. Your teacher decides the right time. If you tell me you're ready to become an anagarika or anagarika, come up here on stage and do the bunny jumps. Do a somersault at my request while everyone's watching. It will be difficult, but I'm not saying that it's going to be easy and anyone can do it. I mean, you have to be more than an anagarika to be able to do that. But what I'm saying is, you should be willing to let mockery, ridicule, shame, insult come your way and let your teacher help you handle that. Let the Dhamma let you handle that. Not run away from that. Not shy away from that. You see the distinction? It's one thing to not let mockery, laughter become the laughing stock, right? It's one thing to kind of keep away from all that. Then you don't need a teacher. Aren't I right? I mean, if you never get kaka on your hands, you don't need gloves, do you? But it's when you get dirt, dust, grime, whatever on your hands, that's when you need a pair of gloves. So, in the same vein, if you are always running away from all these things that you don't like because they are not within your comfort zone, then you don't need a teacher. Why do you need a teacher? Why do you need the Dhamma? You don't need the Dhamma because vexation and relief from vexation is your philosophy. But if vexation and then the eradication of vexation is your philosophy, then that has to be done with the help of a teacher. Not relief from, but eradication of. So we take the cake away, and then 10 minutes back we bring it back and say, just joking, Puta, okay? You can have it, Puta. Sit down. Just kidding. And then just before they start it, you take it away again. Not done it yet. Planning to. What will people there say? Heartless, wicked. Food, how can you do like that? So this is food. It's not like a bicycle, it's a food. I mean, it's food. You can't play with people's food. No, this is a piece of cake. It's not that we are going to starve them. They've had their fill for the day. This is a piece of cake. Right? It's not the thing that they're going to eat for the whole day. They've had their meal. But now it's not the body. I want to check that it's not the mind that's begging for this cake. Now we plan these annual trips, school trips from the Noble International School. They plan a trip. once a year, to teach our children about our culture, about our history, so they know a little, thing or two about at least how to cross the street, because we have to teach our children all these things as well. So this year I said, this part I'll take out of the sermon, because they listen to this and then the secret will be out. This year I said, I asked the teachers to organize the trip, right, plan it with the children, discuss where we are going to go, right, where they're going to go, plan everything out, and then the day before the trip, inform them that they're not going. Or the morning they wake up, right, everyone off to the Valimalur. No trip today. But what's the one question they cannot ask? Why? Are you ready for that? I ask you, are you ready for that? If your husband says, let's go out for dinner tonight, and then later he comes back and says, you know what, can you make something? Don't feel like going out tonight. How many questions will you have after that? Why? But you promised, why not? Why can't we just, go to the nearest one? Can't we get some takeaway? One day I was looking forward not to have to cook at home. So many whys. It's difficult. Because once your mind is settled on one thing, right, it makes it its abode. That's what happens. It's called the Vimane. The mind makes a Vimane out of it. It makes an abode out of it. The moment the mind attaches itself to something, it makes a Vimane or an abode out of it. This should not be done with spite. No, I cannot do this to our children out of spite, not out of anger or out of as a punishment. It's not a punishment. We never punish after the fact. That's no point, because the wrong deed is done. Punishment is okay as long as it's done to prevent. You can't fix what is broken, but you can prevent it breaking again. You can call it punishment if you want. We call it correction. It's better. Correct the way that they think. Punish the wrongdoing. So correction is better than prevention. Or rather, punishment. Correction is better than punishment. Because correction helps you prevent. Punishment just leads to regret and repent, which are not positive emotions. So are you ready for this kind of treatment? Are you ready for the noble heart treatment? Put the anagarika treatment to a side for a second. When you have your cake, your panivalalu, now New Year's coming around, right? In a few months' time. And you already have your pudding and whatever. Have it, keep it. Try it out with your children and see what will happen. Mothers, fathers, right? Try it with your children and see what would happen. Right? Cook and make a nice pudding, whatever they like, their favorite food, and tell them right from the previous day, Puta, Ami is going to make something for you, right? And say some pudding, if that's what they like. And now he's looking forward to it. Right? He goes to school thinking about what time he can get back home so he can have his favorite pudding. And then he's back home. Now he said, soon after you have your lunch, I'm going to give it to you. So then he has his lunch and now he's all ready for his pudding. Right? So you bring the pudding. You leave it on the table. His mouth is watering. In his mind, he's already devoured it. Now his body just has to play catch up. That's how it works, right? The mind has already done what it has to do. Now the body has to play catch up. So then, one slice or one serving into a dish on the thing. And say, Puta, now take your spoon. And when Ami says, count to 3, you can have it, okay? Okay. 1, 2, and take it away. Try it. But before you do that, inform the fire ambulance. Because they will set the house on fire if you don't let them have it. They might ring the police Apparently kids are now ringing the police on their parents. Oh, that's how the world's going, that's how the world's going. Right? Who am I to question? And then they will say, I am being abused by my parents. This is abuse, this is torture. I mean, look at the Constitution, it'll probably say the same. To promise something to a child and then to deprive it of it unreasonably. Who decides what's reasonable and what's unreasonable? The Constitution talks nothing about Nibbāna. It talks about existence and the way to exist in peace and harmony, nothing about Nibbāna. So everything I say will go against the conventional constitutions that exist out there. You know that your child will just throw a hissy fit. They will be rolling on the floor, they'll be crying, they'll be screaming. Right? And what's worse, after you go to bed at night, see tomorrow morning the pudding will be gone. Wake up in the morning and see the pudding will be gone because they will have had their serving at night. I did this when I was a child. I know. There was ice cream at night. By the morning it was gone. There was pudding in the fridge at night. By the morning it was gone. Because I didn't know how to control my temptations. I didn't know how to do that. And if anyone were to take it away from me, I'd have 100 whys thrown at them. Why me? I had a little brother at home, 4 years my younger. So if he was treated a certain way that I wasn't, I had plenty of whys to throw at my mother and father. Plenty of them. Why, if he can't, I? Why should I must and he need not? Can you tell your kid when they ask you, don't ask why, just so? Then they'll ask you, why just so? I'm talking about our noble heartians, 6+, 6 and above. We are training them to be okay without a why. What do you want? Isn't that what you want for them? If they are your children, isn't that what you want for them? A happiness that cannot be shaken? A happiness that is not dependent on an explanation? Because an explanation is basically, I have a comfort zone, let's see if these two things agree. That's what a why is. Sometimes you give just, make up a why and people are happy. It's when you have to refuse someone's invitation. Someone says, can you come to my party? I can't, because this one, I have another engagement. Someone's coming, I just invited them. Okay, then it's okay. You can't just say, no, I'm not coming, right? If someone invites them to your party, you can't just say, I'm not coming. You have to give an explanation, right? It's an obligation almost, isn't it? It's not almost an obligation, it is an actual obligation. You have to give a reason for your refusal. Why do you have to do that? Why do you feel the need to give a reason? Because what might they think otherwise? That you don't like them. So, I don't expect you to change all of that from here on. Do give a reason, make one up if you don't have one. Right? Do what you have to do to keep the social fabric intact. Right? But if someone gives you a denial, gives you a refusal, don't be the one who needs an explanation. If you invite someone and they don't show up, don't be the one who has to be given an explanation. You've got to start young with this training though. It's difficult the more you are matured and the more this has become your way of life and the way you think and your thinking patterns have all been set according to this. It becomes a bit challenging. Not impossible, but challenging. But please remember, ladies and gentlemen, you need to apply. You need to engage. When we appoint teachers at the monastery, every year we appoint new teachers. Swaminathan become teachers, Anagarika Mahatmas become teachers. Right? So when we make our new appointments and we announce, so this year, 2026, we appointed 20 or so new teachers from the Swaminathans. So now each of them has students underneath them. So I think now we have about 10 or 12 generations of teachers. Wow, quite a thing. So when we appoint teachers, I always remember to give this message because we make the announcements in and amidst everyone. So I say, if there's anyone here who's concerned that they were not appointed a teacher, the answer is, that is why. What? Did you not get it? Yeah. That is why. Because you have a question in your heart going, why was I not appointed a teacher? How come I wasn't appointed a teacher? I was also ordained on the same date as this individual. I'm also higher ordained. He's also higher ordained. How come if he can become one, I can't become one? What's wrong about me? Am I too short? Am I too tall? Am I dark? Am I fair? What's the problem? So there's so many whys to which you cannot find an answer by yourself. That's why you're not a teacher. Because a teacher should be able to address their own vexations, their own whys with the Dhamma, and not have to go looking for explanations and reasonings from other individuals. Right? That's why you're not a teacher. So then they don't have to come and ask me why they were not a teacher. And we say the same applies for when you are an anagarika. You come to me and we will ordain you when you no longer want to be a monk. Because if you wish to become a monk, you're not ready to become one. Do you see the irony there? But that is the truth. Anyone who wishes to become a monk, I have to be a monk, I have to ordain myself, otherwise I cannot be happy. This is someone who has not understood what happiness is. Because they believe in ordination, through their ordination, they will find happiness. Whereas what did the Buddha say? The Buddha says, happiness is not to be found in anything. It is the acceptance of everything. Therefore, you are a suitable candidate for ordination when you are ready and you are okay, even if you are not selected for ordination. Seems very harsh, doesn't it? Seems very harsh. But if an army training is hard, right? Training to make one a soldier, to fight in the battlefield, if that is hard, I tell you, this is 100 times harder. Because you're going against the flow. All this time in Sansara, you've been going downstream. Now you're going to have to start going upstream. You're flowing, you're swimming against the current, ladies and gentlemen. Ain't easy. Not undoable or not non-doable. It is doable. It is very much doable. But these are the comfort zones that I spoke of and I have been speaking of throughout this talk. So, take this home with you today. Ask yourself and make a mental list of these many comfort zones that you will find for yourself. Try out a few, stepping out of a few of them. And like I said, don't get used to the alternative, because then that becomes the new comfort zone. Have a teacher. Toss a coin. Ask your child. Ask your husband. Try and see whether you can be happy when it's not your choice. Wake up in the morning and if you hear a bird tweet, have your tea that day. If you don't. If it tweets while you're making your tea, add your sugar. If they don't add your sugar. I know what you'll do then. You'll bring a bird. Huh? You'll have a bird in your kitchen in a cage, and if it's sleeping, hey, wake up, I'm making my tea. Tweet. Just so you can have it your way. Remember, the mind is very deceptive. Okay? It'll always play tricks on you. Self-deception is the mind's business. It is the mind's business, and the mind is a master at it. Self-deception. Can I tell you one thing? This is the last thing I'll tell you. Something that our teachers always tell us. Okay? This is good for you to understand how much we are mindful about the way we conduct ourselves. As monks, we are considered trustworthy individuals. So oftentimes people will come up to us and they will share with us their ins and outs of their lives, problems they have, and so on. Sometimes you will even have, you have people from all walks of lives, men, women, elderly, young, all sorts, right? As a young, or relatively speaking young monk, you may have women who are of similar or young age. They'll walk up to you, maybe counseling sessions we do at the monastery, or other encounters that we have, and then they'll come up to you and then they will entrust you with their problem. They say, Swamin Vansana, I have a problem, Swamin Vansana. Yes, madam, how can I help you? So then they start sharing their problem with you. I'm talking about how the mind can be very deceiving. Okay? And then the Swamin Vansana says, yes, so let's talk about your problem, and then they start giving some advice. Sometimes if you're not very mindful and watchful about your thoughts, and if you're not diligent in your practice, I'm sharing with you a piece of advice that our teachers always give us, right? Sometimes you may feel that now this lady's problem is your problem. So you might actually go a length that you may not go with a gent, a distance that you may not go with an elderly woman. Not physically, figuratively. So perhaps you might be tempted to, Madam, how's your problem now? Is it all good? If you have a problem, give me a call, okay? I'll take your number, I'll give you a call. But you would not do that with an elderly woman, perhaps. Maybe you won't do it with a gentleman. But with a young lady, you start to get more close than is needed. But if you ask the mind, why are you doing that? Because she needs help. She's a poor thing. She's very feeble. She's been done wrong by society. Her husband's not being faithful to her. So she needs someone she can trust, and she trusts the Dhamma. Dhamma, yeah. So I have to help her. And she came and told me that I'm the only one she trusts, so of course I have to help her. There's no one else to help her. She's tried talking to her parents, but the parents are not supportive either, so I have to look after her. Poor people. The Buddha asked to give compassion, and I'm giving compassion to her. Loving kindness. But gradually, something else starts to take place. The kindness starts to drop from the loving kindness. That can happen. Deception. And the excuse? Dhamma. I'm trying to help them. Because they're distraught and they need help. They're distraught, right? They need help. No one else to go to, so I have to help. So then, why not help that Achiyamma? She's 85. Why not help her? Yeah, I'll help her also, but if I have time after helping her. See? Then there's a gentleman who's waiting to see you, but no, let me talk to her. And then you start picking her, choosing her, as opposed to him or the elderly woman. Why? This is why you have to allow your teacher to decide. Do you see how mindful we must remain as monks? Because I'm not prepared to pay anything, buy anything and exchange for this. If Nibbāna is the price I have to pay, you keep it. Bring me anything, whatever you want to offer me. But if Nibbāna is the price I have to pay for it, you keep it. Thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. Anything else we'll negotiate. But here I draw the line. Isn't that what I should do as a monk? Because you can't fault the devotees for that. Because devotees have only come there for help. And at a time when you're feeling like that, feeling really down and no one else to look after you, no one else to support you, and particularly where there's a Swaminwahanse, because you know that a Swaminwahanse has no other links, no other connections, no other bondages, no other commitments to anyone, right? So you know that this is an individual you can trust. Because you know that what you say is not going to go passing around the block. That no one's going to talk about you when you get back home. It's not going to go on Facebook. It's not going to go on some kind of social media because the Swaminwahanse has no interest in any of that. So you begin to trust them. Very easy to trust. And nothing better than someone to listen to your woes when you're feeling like that. Nothing better than that. That's the perfect remedy, isn't it? When you have something to say, if someone's prepared to listen to you, that's a perfect remedy. But many a time, this has happened in the past, it will happen in the future. During these encounters, not compassion. These encounters start like this, but they end like this. If you're not mindfully aware. So our teachers, therefore, always remind us. See what great teachers we have. And that is because their teachers would have always reminded them. And theirs, and theirs for them, and theirs for them, and so on. But how much of that do you get outside? The protection of the community, of the Sangha. How many times at the workplace do people start other affairs, relationships? You know the answers to these questions, right? They trust each other, husband and wife, trust each other enough to say, go out and bring home the bacon. Husband goes, wife goes to work, but that's work, apparently. But work turns to you know what's. Because there's no one at the workplace saying, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. Why are you talking with her so much? Because what's the answer? If you walk up to your colleague and said, why do you talk to that girl so much? What would they say? Mind your own business. What's that got to do with you? Because you can't ask why. Monastery? If there was ever a situation where I felt a Swaminwahanse was spending too much time talking to one devotee, or an Anagarika Mahatma was spending too much time talking to a devotee, right? I should have the liberty as a teacher to question and ask why. And then if they said that's none of your business, then their business is not at the monastery. That's not a threat. That's just a matter of fact. Their business is no longer at the monastery then. And the same goes for me as well. If I spend too much time, considerably more time talking to one devotee and not to another. Let's say there's one devotee we know, he's loaded. Right? He's very rich, he's very wealthy. Or she's very rich, she's very wealthy. And I spend a lot of time talking to them, but I don't give my time to anyone else. Then my teacher can quite rightly come up to me and say, why do you spend all that time talking to that man? What is it you want out of them? If I said, why not? Mind your own business. Can I say that? No, because my teacher's business is what? My Nibbāna. So they are minding their own business. They are. In fact, if we don't get questioned, we feel really hurt. Honestly, that's the way we are. If my teacher doesn't question me when I think I've done something wrong, if he doesn't question me, I feel really hurt. Because then I feel like they don't care. then their Nibbāna or my Nibbāna is no longer their business. Then who's there to look after me? Who's there to protect me? See, it's just the opposite of what happens out there. That's why the Mahasangha and the protection of the Mahasangha is vital, ladies and gentlemen, to get to Nibbāna. So do come into the Mahasangha's embrace. Do come. Do come. And Bhutas also come into the Mahasangha's embrace, because they will support you to get to Nibbāna. Shall we leave it there? Okay. Let's take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, inviting the Swami Nuhas to deliver the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice the path. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas throughout the world who have protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer this message to my teacher, Guru Swami Nuhanse, as well as all the monks and nuns resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, employers, employees, our teachers, anyone and everyone who helped us and supported us. I beg your pardon. Let us also transfer these merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits to help sustain the Mahasangha, make offerings of food, alms, shelter and robes, as well as their know-how, and continue to pass on their well wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits. And by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer this message to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who have passed away in our name, reminding ourselves that in this long journey of Sansara, they have supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form, as well as the fact that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path. Let us transfer these merits to members of the armed forces, as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as those who lost their lives in the wars, be they friend or foe, and those who lost their lives in natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinite long journey of Sansara, they will all have been parents to us, siblings to us, teachers to us, friends to us, acquaintances to us, and therefore with an abundance of compassion and loving kindness towards all of them, let us transfer these merits to all. By the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Mahanse or an Arahat Thiranin Mahanse in this very life itself and in the era of this Sri Sambuddha Sasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. And now the members of the Mahasangha will transfer the blessings to you. Raga kinnin idetva Dvesha ginnin idetva Moha ginnin idetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taratva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taratva සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා රාගගිනි නිවේවා ද්වේෂගිනි නිවේවා මෝහගිනි නිවේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා තුන්වන්ගේ සෝසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බැලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු